Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 11 of the anime series DanMachi. And as soon as we get into this one, they basically give me something, briefly though it may be, that I was desperate to see since the previous episode, the way it all ended. Ryu kicking ass and taking no names in the dungeons. Right alongside Aspie, of course, the partner of Hermes and everything like that. As we saw toward the tail end of the previous episode, you have Hestia and Hermes putting together this group made up of the three members of Taki Familia, as well as I say, Aspie, Ryu. They are going in effectively to be a rescue party for Belle, Welf, and Lily. And I love that sort of back and forth we're seeing as they're making their way into the dungeon, and they see that, you know, there's nothing but aftermath. They've lost a lot of the items and accoutrements, and they've been leaving crystals behind as they have to just survive the monster attacks and everything like that. They piece together they're probably trying to make their way down to the 18th safe zone floor. And seeing Belle just be the utmost peak of a heroic character. You know, he's not leaving either Welf or Lily behind. They're both sort of unconscious at one point. And he gets them both hoisted up under his arms, and he's dragging them, he's carrying them to the safe zone to preserve their lives. Like, this guy, you know, Belle, he is just uber hero at this point. I mean, even with all the prowess he's been wielding, even with all the monsters he's been taking out, he's risking his life for these people he cares about. He has so much honor and selflessness. And it was just like teeth-grittingly awesome. Like, you know, trying to just swallow, wanting to jump off the couch and be like, yes! You know, he's saving them. And then he gets to the point where it's like the wall of sorrow or whatever it is. You know, he's been hoping, much as they discussed in the previous episode, you know, and as far as going down to the 18th safe zone level, that Loki Familia, having passed through this area already on their expedition, has probably taken out the Goliath that is inhabiting this little zone, and hopefully it hasn't respawned yet. And of course, right in the heat of his carrying them, it does, you know, show its ugly face. I'm thinking, Eren Yeager? Come on, man. Eren Yeager's Titan form wants to kick Belle's ass in the sequence. Attack on Titan reference, in case you missed it. But he just barely, by the skin of his teeth, gets to that, like, exit way, if you will. A downward slide into the safe zone. And I thought it was really interesting. As soon as he, like, lands on the ground and there's grass everywhere, and you see, you know, these blue boots just sort of standing next to him, I'm like, eyes? Already? Like, she's already here, you know? And sure enough, it turns out her entire familia, the expedition party, they're making their way slowly but surely back to the surface. And so now we get to see this under-resort, as she calls it, just being so, especially in the RPG aesthetic, just absolutely meticulously beautiful. The light, you know, it looks like the outside world, and there's light from these sort of glowing crystals and everything like that. And there's a real potential for there being sort of a romantic scene playing out between, of course, Belle and Eyes, and she has to go tell the leader of their little expedition that he's awake, and, you know, they basically welcome them with open arms because of the heroic prowess and the selflessness Belle has shown. They've healed the trio of them, and, you know, it's just good times to be had, very interesting times to be had, too, because Belle, he's got these girls fanboying, or fangirling in this case, over him, and he doesn't know quite how to deal with it. He's all blushing and everything. They're calling him Argonaut-kun and everything, I guess because of the ability, you know, he unlocked episodes back now, the Argonaut, you know, ability or what have you. And I don't know if that speaks to his singularly having done so. Maybe he's the only one who has, or has as yet, you know, that kind of situation. But they love him. You know, the girls are glomming onto him. And you have Eyes kind of sitting there just, you know, let's observe the situation. Let's see what he says when he's asked, you know, how long it took him to reach level 2 and, you know, how to become an S-class warrior. And she's like, let's see what he says, you know. So all of that was, of course, interesting. And when you finally have that moment where it's gone sort of nighttime, and of course Hestia, she just barely makes it down. She's complaining about the Goliath being there and not realizing or being told that it would be. And, you know, you get the sense that they just barely made it down to the 18th level as well. And this is where you have everyone reconvening, and some minced words, or not so minced words, you could say, between the Taki Familia members and, of course, Welf and Lily. And yet again, even in the face of this, Bell is sort of the conscious, the moral center. He's the one who's saying, you know, realistically, if we were in the same position, we might have done the same thing to somebody else. And that's interesting to me because he is ever the sort of promoting factor of peace and peaceful coexistence, and I'm not better than anyone else in this world. You know, I'm just trying my hardest, and everybody tries their hardest, and we can all be friends and everything like that. There isn't an antagonistic bone in his body, seemingly, and it does beg the question, you know, might something happen eventually down along the line where that could be awakened in him? Maybe something happens to Hestia, or maybe something happens to a friend, Eyes, whatever. But, you know, at least for the way this episode played out, it was awesome to see that they could let their hair down a little bit. They have, you know, some time to rest, basically a day to take a break, and I hope they're not going to focus the entire next episode on just, you know, it's vacation time for a whole day kind of situation. I'm kind of hoping we just left that, you know, where it was, and maybe there'll be a little of that in the next episode, but I want to see them getting back out of the dungeon and getting back to the story proper, because we know Freya is the sort of puppet master and manipulating factors, and it does seem that Hermes has a reason for being there, and he's not coming clean when Hestia asks. He only says, so far as, you know, somebody asked me to check out Bell, and now it's my own interests. Based on what I've seen, I've had my curiosity piqued, is why I'm even down here, why I'm going after him, trying to help him. You know, what is the driving force, the impetus behind these characters? And the idea, there is one line that gave me pause, and that's Hermes saying something about wanting to see if Bell is truly the one to bring us into a new era. What the hell does that mean? And then we end with this sort of a footnote scene, if you will, with Welf being given an item that was carried down by this group, this rescue party, from Hephaestus. And it's interesting that because I completely, you know, blanked on who she was when we saw her in the previous episode. They're saying somebody else's name at the time, and they're showing her, and I'm thinking, okay, is this a character that just happens to look like her? That's part of Taki Familia's little group and everything. But no, in fact, it was Hephaestus, and she sent down a message with Hestia and this item for Welf. And it's closely pertaining, and it obviously seems to be on an upsetting level, to the idea of his wanting to give up the magical prowess, being able to forge items and weapons imbued with magic. And I'm not quite sure what to make of that. You know, does that imply that he gave it up and he regrets it, as Hephaestus seemed to be warning him? Or is it something he hadn't made the judgment call on, and, you know, now he realizes he can't give it up, and he's kind of stuck in the predicament that he's in, needing to, you know, utilize and fall back on that ability. I don't know exactly, but it's definitely something that he is not all too pleased with. And knowing that he has the history with Hephaestus and, you know, all that kind of stuff, like, it seems like a personal jab, whether intended to be or not, you know, this message to him. And I can't wait to see what exactly happens, how this plays out, you know, as we continue in the next episode. I'm assuming we will get some sort of, you know, play on looking around the town, as was promised at the tail end. Comedically, you have Hestia getting all ticked off, you know, no Eyes, you're not going on a date with Belle and everything like that. I think you even hear Lily like, you're going on a date? And Hestia's like, shut the hell up. I do get a kick out of the dynamics and everything like that, and it was a satisfying episode in that seeing them come together, seeing them succeed, seeing what Bell accomplished in saving his comrades, and everyone coming together at the end, you know, it basically just was a nice, refreshing ending to a very tense couple of episodes, the last couple of episodes before this. And I can't wait to see what happens next, as I say. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 11 of DanMachi, if you've seen it, and all the things that Bell accomplished, the heroic selflessness he portrayed of himself in this episode, as well as I say, seeing Eyes be sort of a saving grace, in a sense, once again, in Loki Familia even, and the mystery surrounding Hermes and what he's after, So otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.